Hi, Rockdale County Chairman Oz Nesbitt, a segment of Chop It Up with the Chairman. I am delighted this afternoon to be talking to Rockdale's native son, Chef Curtis Aikens. Chef Aikens, you grew up right here in Rockdale County. Conyers, Nate, everybody knows you. Wow. A world-renowned chef. Culinary arts has been your thing. But I want to hear from you. The people want to hear from you.
Can we chop it up? Is what you're saying? Huh?
Yes, let's chop it up.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for the openness that I have experienced since I've known you, Oz. I mean, Chairman. Y'all forgive me that, but we all know this is Oz.
Yes,
not the Wizard of, but just the man who does the work.
Absolutely, and we're chopping it up.
We're chopping it up,
so
it's all good. Yeah, it's good to be home. This was my first trip back since Mama passed last October, and it's been very emotional. It's been extremely emotional, highs and lows. And one of the high points was when you and I had breakfast the other day and got a chance to just chop it up, if you will. So yeah, I've been blessed in my professional career. Now I'm blessed. I've been blessed in my personal life as well, to have a wonderful family, to be from this incredible county. No matter where I go in the world, I'm a Rockdale boy.
And I want to talk about it right there. I want to stay there for a second because it's so important that when people leave their hometown, they don't get amnesia and forget where they come from. And we appreciate, you still have a homestead here, yes. You still own property here in Rockdale County. You still have a big heart for Conyers and Rockdale, and the fact that you're home visiting, and you come a few times during the year, is that correct?
I do. Well, COVID changed everything. I was able to get here in time to say goodbye to Mom. And that was last October. So this is my first time back in Rockdale and Conyers since then. And I got to tell you, I think some friends and I, we talk about whenever we come home, all of us that grew up in the flats, we call the Ville Street the flats back in the day. And Steve Kemp, Raymond Carr, Byron Carr, guys that my boys, Right. And then up on the hill, the kids up, Dexter Holt, all these, we're great kids. However, when we come back home, we have to drive through downtown. And I always take a little video driving through downtown. No matter when I come through, I have to come by and look at the Dinky train. I have to go where the old Golden Pantry used to be down the street there. We love Conyers. We love Rockdale. And I'm a cheerleader for this place I call home.
Well, we appreciate you not forgetting Rockdale, not forgetting Conyers. I know one of our mutual great friends is my good buddy, old police cop, Jay Grover.
Hey, Jay.
And in fact, the whole name for this segment is called Chop It Up.
Chop It Up.
And Jay and I meet about once a month, and we talk about everything under the sun, right. Politics, civics, you name it, community. Jay, like you, has a big heart for this community, and so we call it Chop It Up session. And so that's what we're doing. So let's chop it up because you've been in culinary arts for how many years?
Time. Oh, I'll be 63 my birthday.
Okay.
I have been cooking, all my life. At my mom's hip, I love watching Mom cook when I was a little boy. And I really started cooking. Now, this is the truth of it. I had moved to California back in 81, 82. And I called Mom up and I was saying to her, I miss your fried chicken. And she says, well, boy, you got two options. You can cook it yourself or you can do without it. So Mama taught me to fry chicken over the phone. Now let me tell you, you got to understand now, the first batch of chicken was a mess. Now let me tell you, my buttermilk fried chicken is off the chain.
Well, you getting me excited. I'm telling you now, listen, it's Friday and I would love to have some of that tasty buttermilk fried chicken from Chef Curtis Aikens. So tell us a little bit about why you're here in town, and other than the fact that you make these frequent visits, but you're on a whole new mission. You got a vision that you shared with me when we were having our one-on-one chop it up the other day. Talk to me and share with our viewers here in Rockdale County about what you're up to and how you're chopping things up out on the West Coast.
Right. Well, thank you for giving me the platform to speak about that. As you know, I got my start in this whole business as an advocate for reading. As many of my friends know, and teachers and the community knows, I didn't learn to read while I was a football player. I was a good student in Rockdale County, and that is not throwing shade on the teachers or the school system. I knew I had a gift. I had a gift of gab. So I was able to fake my way through school, into college, 2 different colleges without learning to read. So I got my start in this business to promote reading because there are nearly 40 million Americans, grown-up Americans, who cannot read or are considered functionally illiterate. Last year, with all this civil and social unrest in the country, it woke me up again. I'm reinvigorated to do more for my fellow citizens, not only in Marin County where I live, just north of San Francisco, but also Rockdale County and all the places across the country that I've had the pleasure to work for 40 years. My vision is to make this beautiful community of Rockdale and Marin County one of the prettiest places on the planet. I can't wait to get you out to visit. I have this vision of having these 2 places become kind of sisters or brothers, cousins, whatever the correct term is. When I moved to California in the early 80s, I fell in love with Marin County and a little town called Novato. It reminds me so much of Conyers and so much of Rockdale, and I just wish I could just squish them together so the people that I love in Rockdale and the people I love in Marin could know each other. So I'm hoping we can make that happen.
Chef Curtis, I'm hearing several things here. I'm hearing literacy, culinary arts,
yes,
community,
yes,
social. I'm also hearing sister counties,
yes,
Rockdale County and Marin County,
yes,
bringing 2 worlds, West Coast, East Coast together, and let's really chop it up and bring exposure, awareness, and education to both demographics.
Exactly. I'm doing some work out west. Again, I don't want to throw shade. I'm not one of the kind of people that put anyone down. I much rather bring people up. I work with a couple of groups in Northern California, black students in the Marin County School, and there aren't very many of them. They don't see people like a chairman of the county with skin color like theirs. So I want to have these children get exposed to that and know that, that historically black colleges are available to students on the West Coast, just like they are to students on the East Coast. I want these students, black and white, to understand that, I'm not measured by the color of my skin. And the way Dr. King put it, it's the content of my heart. And the content of the hearts in Rockdale County have always been overflowing with joy. And I want these children on the West Coast to be exposed to that.
Well, I think you're certainly on to something. I'm excited about it. We're going to talk more about that. Let's just take a quick break. I'm going to show a couple of clips during this break of some of your work in the kitchen as Chef Curtis Aikens. And then we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about what you're doing. You're tuning in to Rockdale Channel 23 with Chairman Oz Nesbitt, Chop It Up, featuring Rockdale's native son, Chef Curtis Aikens.
Fit for your queen or your king. In my case, it's for my queen, Lisa. I'm going to add just a little bit of, I got cilantro here. I love the flavor that cilantro adds to dishes. I'm going to serve that with a little bit of that La Crema Chardonnay. Let's take a bite. The piccata is ready. We plated it up. Now all we need to do is taste it, huh? What do you think? Sip of wine first or sip of wine later? Can't go wrong either way, right? Remember the rule. If you're not going to drink it, why in the world would you cook with it, right? That's a gorgeous Chardonnay. And I've got my pasta there. Wow. That's heaven on a fork. Along my culinary journey, I've worked with some incredible human beings. Julia Child. Wow, one of the highlights of my career was being asked to host one of the parties for Julia's 90th birthday. Worked with Joe Carcione in the early days when I started my first produce company, Peaches, named for my home state, Georgia. And I supplied restaurants from South San Francisco all the way up to Fort Bragg. I loved that job. And Joe taught me a lot of things about how to buy, how to choose, and how to store fresh fruits and vegetables. Had a chance to work with Frida Kaplan. Frida started a company, Frida's Finest. And a lot of the foods that we think of nowadays as common foods, Frida brought them to the country, and her daughters carried on her legacy.
Rockdale County Chairman Oz Nesbitt, our first inaugural segment of Chop It Up with the chairman, and we're chopping it up with Chef Curtis Aikens, Rockdale's native son. Conyers, born and raised here. We're having a wonderful time talking about what Curtis is up to. He's given us a little bit of a rundown about his career, his start right here in Rockdale County, graduate from Rockdale County High School, born and raised in the city of Conyers. Curtis, let's go back in and talk a little bit about a couple of things. Let's take them one by one.
Okay.
Let's talk about, you shared with us and very candid about literacy and your inability to read until I think you said about 26 years old.
Correct.
Talk to us about that and how opening that door to literacy and creating freedom for you in terms of being able to read and comprehend. Let's talk about that, because there's a lot of young people in our community that really need to hear this story, but not just young people. There's some regular folks, I like to say, that need to hear this story as well. Tell us about literacy and what it really means to you.
It's interesting. Interesting is a word that can go so many ways. I love learning. Now, and you go, how can a guy who didn't learn to read till he's 26 love to learn? We had incredible teachers at Rockdale County. Mr. Pemberton, Ms. Pemberton, Mr. and Mrs. Redding, Ms. Miles. I can name every teacher I had. Ms. Duke was my sixth grade teacher, but who came over from J.P. Carr. So I learned a lot by listening. And I remember as a child, and people say, how did you get through school without knowing how to read? And I said, well, I used to listen to Flip Wilson, Richard Pryor, Mike Roberts in the morning on the radio station here, and I would emulate. If you sound smart, people think you're smart.
Curtis, you said Flip Wilson.
Flip Wilson.
Geraldine made me do it.
Yes, sir. Oh my God, we're gonna laugh all day about that. But my thing is like, and I want to share with students. I share with kids. Chairman, I've talked with at least 1,000 schools in my career, high schools, elementary schools, college students across America. And I share with them the fact that once I learned to read, my world changed. I could read the Bible for myself. People ask me, what was the first book you read? And I said, the first book I read was from the Bible. You know, the 23rd Psalm is my favorite passage.
Wonderful.
You know, that's the rock that I move through, right?
Absolutely.
Move with. And then I started reading biographies. I read Lee Iacocca. I used to love to read about athletes who became business people. Reggie Jackson, Kareem Jabbar. There's so many incredible black men that I was able to learn from, right? And then I got into writing myself. So I want students to understand if you have a problem, don't be ashamed or embarrassed, ask for help. I was too ashamed. I was too embarrassed to go to my wonderful high school teachers and say, Ms. Wade, I can't read, help me learn to read, because I didn't want to get laughed at. So that's the real reason I didn't want to be laughed at. It's why I didn't come forward and ask for help sooner.
Curtis, we appreciate you sharing that. Chef Aikens, I'm telling you, there's a young person, there's a regular person out there watching this broadcast, and they really needed to hear you say that and share your story about literacy and how it has impacted your life.
Yes.
But it didn't stop there. Let's talk about this gift God has given you in terms of culinary arts.
Wow.
You've been all over the states, the country, all over the world, teaching. And you know, we here in the South, we love our Southern comfort food. We like soul food. Oh, yes. You've made a transformation in your life, going healthy, and you talked about how to have those tasty Southern treats, but still maintain a level of healthiness.
Exactly.
Talk about the culinary piece, from literacy to culinary, and how that impacted.
It's an interesting transition, and I share this with adult learners, adults who need to learn to read, and children learn to read. I knew I had a God-given ability when it came to food. I could look at items and pair them up. So I say that I challenge people, I challenge myself, I challenge people, what is it that you love? You know, if you love basketball, you may not be 6'7" and have a great crossover. However, if you know a lot about the game, you can become a reporter. You know, there's so many different ways. There's so many avenues in every field.
Absolutely.
You know, if you love whatever it is, cooking like me, you may not be able to craft together that meal, but you can write about how it tastes and so on. So I say to people, what is it you love? I don't work anymore. Mr. Chairman, I don't work. I share my passion every day. Sometimes I make a lot of money doing it, and sometimes I pay a lot of money to be able to speak to a certain group because I want to share my message. So for me, I knew my gift came with food, so I started working that, and it's taken me around the world. I was able to cook in London and in Paris, Australia, in Italy. I mean, with some great chefs that I'm learning under. So this world of the culinary has allowed me to expand my world, and I want to share that with people. I want to share that
so Chef, let's slow it down just a second, and let's be honest about something with young people, particularly today, from high school to college. Sometimes it takes a young person a good number of years to determine or to discover what their hidden talents or gifts are. For me, I started my life in law enforcement right out of high school. Being a church boy, I discovered my gift of public speaking and continued to build on that. Didn't know that one day I'd be the chairman of Rockdale County. Always had an appetite for politics and civics and community, but my gift made room for me.
Right.
I want you to really talk to the young people who are listening and watching in this broadcast how they need to stay in tune to themselves and other people around them to discover their hidden talents and to discover those gifts that are in them, that some of them are not quite sure right now what those gifts are.
I love that you phrased it that way. And I share with people, again, I can't tell anyone what to do. Not even my children. Both my boys are grown. My youngest was in law enforcement like you started out. The oldest one is a musician. He's traveled the world with his music. And I say to people, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up.
Right.
You feel me?
Right. I understand exactly what you mean, too.
Because there's so many wonderful avenues to travel. I have owned my own businesses. I started a produce company here in Rockdale twice. I've cooked. I've done personal chefing. I've done public speaking. I do motivational speaking. There's so many things. And I say to children, and I'm being careful how I say the word children, because if you're under 18, I still think of you as a child.
Okay.
Okay?
Right.
If you're under 25, I'm still thinking of you as a child.
Okay.
And some of you at 35, yeah, let's face it, you're still a child too. So I say, be careful in what you do. Don't hurt anyone else and don't hurt yourself. Try as much as you can without being harmful or causing harm, right? And I can be, may I be frank?
Please do.
Okay. Drugs. I'm not going to tell you what to do and not to do. It's just if you cause trouble to your brain, you can't expand your mind, right?
Absolutely.
So don't hurt yourself. Try everything you can. When I say try everything, I mean try basketball. As young athletes, don't just get locked into one sport. Baseball, football, basketball, tennis, track. Men, women, boys, children, girls. Play everything. Learn everything. That's the way to really train your brain. When it comes to finding your passion, think about what it is when you're by yourself. What do you want to do? When I'm by myself, I want to cook.
Chef Curtis, you talked about, and I appreciate the warning you gave to the young people about mind-altering drugs.
Yes.
And mind-altering. Absolutely, because what happens when kids are what they believe having a good time and being young, and we've all been there, we've all been young, we've all done crazy, stupid things.
Yes, we have.
Let's be real.
I tell my children when they were growing up, there ain't nothing you gonna do that I haven't done.
Those mind-altering drugs could really set you back in your life, and they could prevent doors from being opened.
Exactly.
You have a big interest. You work with a lot of young people out on the West Coast. You've shared with me a vision that you have to tie sister counties,
yes,
Rockdale and Moraine together.
Because I love them both.
Let's talk now about your vision of perhaps getting 2 young people from Moraine County and 2 young people from Rockdale County to trade places.
Yes.
Tell me about that vision.
Well, you and I both believe in exposure. My father, Eddie James Aikens Sr., who we lost too soon, right? And my mother, Laura Bell Curtis Aikens. Mom got her GED from Rockdale High in '72. Dad never got his high school diploma. However, what my parents believed in was exposure. On the weekends, Dad would say, let's go. We'd hop in the car. Next thing you know, we're in Virginia buying ham.
Wow.
We're in North Carolina buying apples. We're traveling. My father believed in exposure. I was up last week in Cherokee, North Carolina, and I started crying, thinking about the first time I saw Cherokee, North Carolina with my father.
Wow.
Right? But my dad instilled in me this idea that the world is only as big as you want it to be. You know, if I'm a citizen of the world, so I think of Rockdale and San Francisco, it's just a 5-hour plane ride, right? Disney World is 5 hours by car. So we're the same distance, right? So this idea that we can get two beautiful children from Rockdale and expose them to this wonderful Marin County, it's one of the prettiest places on the planet.
And get two great kids from Marin County and bring them out here to Rockdale, to the East Coast, and see a place they've never seen before, learn a culture that they've never been exposed to. Right. And that word is really powerful, exposure. When there's a saying, and I'm full of old cliches.
I love them.
Never judge a book
by its cover.
By its cover. Exposure is key. Amen. I oftentimes tell my family, my 4 children, go to a place you've never been before. Try something on the menu you've never tried. But get out of your comfort zone and learn and grow and be exposed. So I'm excited about this. Now, the National Association of Counties is having their annual conference this July up in Maryland, and I am excited about meeting your county chairperson face to face. Yes.
Her name's Judy Arnold, and I'm going to try to get this tied up as soon as I get home next week.
Well, Judy, let me just tell you about Chairwoman Arnold, who I've had the pleasure of meeting at the legislative conference in Washington, D.C. Each year, myself and our colleagues, we travel out to the legislative conference in Washington, D.C. Judy Arnold, Chairwoman Arnold, has been there she's very active, and she is representing your demographic, by the way.
Yes.
So I'm really excited about this connected. Who would have known Chef Curtis Aikens from Rockdale, Conyers, Georgia, out in San Francisco in Marin County, has an opportunity to bring two worlds together. So I'm going to see her this July. Mm-hmm. Prior to that, we're going to do some Zoom meetings across the miles and make the connection and see what we can do to really bring this dream to fruition, this reality to life about bringing two young people from Marin County out to Rockdale, and two from Rockdale out to Marin.
It's going to be interesting how we pull that off, because I want to do it. One of the things I got to share. I'm working with two county groups out there, a race and equity committee. So, and also with a group, it's called the Priorities Setting Committee for the county.
Okay.
So one of the things is trying to get our county, Marin County, because we've lost a lot of African American citizens in Marin. And I just don't think people know how beautiful, how welcoming, how opening Marin County is. So I want to expose. When I saw it, this is no joke. Bill Hope, my buddy from middle school, and I drove to California. He had family living in Marin. Okay. And when I get to San Diego, like you've been, loved it. I said, I'm going to move here. Then I go north to Marin County, cross the Golden Gate Bridge. I said, I love it. I want to be here. So when I decided to leave University of Georgia, drive to California, Oklahoma City, my father, my brother were with me. I've lost both of them since then. Jeffrey, my brother, and my dad, Eddie Aikens Sr. They were asleep at the hotel in Oklahoma City. I'm getting in my car. I flipped a coin. Heads Marin, tails San Diego. Heads came up. I've been there 40 years.
Wow. Wow. Curtis, we're going to take our final break here. Chop It Up with Chairman Nesbitt, featuring our very first interview with Rockdale's native son, Chef Curtis Aikens. We're going to talk about race, equity, inclusion, and equality. We have a wonderful group here in Rockdale. We're going to talk about it more when we come back from the break. Courageous conversation. I'm fortunate and blessed to be a part of it. Chopping It Up with Chairman Nesbitt right here in Rockdale Channel 23 with Chef Curtis Aikens.
And if you're wondering why I didn't just add the mushrooms on top of the onions, when shiitake mushrooms are cooking, they sometimes just kind of leach out a little bit of bitterness. So I want to keep those on their side. Just let that bitterness come out. A pat of butter, about tablespoon. We'll add it to our mushrooms. I just love the smell of mushrooms cooking in the house. Oh, you see how that butter just made the color change? They soften up so quickly. A little creaminess to them. Olive oil is fabulous, but as Mama say, butter makes it better.
Well, we're back chopping it up with Chairman Oz Nesbitt with our guest, Rockdale's native son, Chef Curtis Aikens. So, Chef, you've given us the background about being from Conyers and Rockdale and
Right.
why you're here. You talked about literacy. You also talked about your culinary arts experience, your gift that God has given you. But you talked about the fact that it's opened up so many doors for you. And the last piece we talked about as we wrap this particular segment up, race, equity, inclusion, equality.
Yes.
Last year, throughout this pandemic, the country experienced so much in the area of social unrest and social injustice. And we here in Rockdale County we braced ourselves because a lot of things were happening. I think we did a great job here to keep things from happening and exploding in Rockdale County. But I want to start with you. Tell us what race and equity and inclusion and equality means for you on a personal front. You were telling me a little bit a few days ago with our Chop It Up about your family and your intimate and more personal connection with that. Talk to us about that if you...
It's interesting. My children, their mom has blonde hair, blue eyes.
Okay.
We were married at Rock Temple AME Church right here in Conyers. We had our reception at Elliott House down the street. So my children know Conyers.
Right.
And it's, how do you do it? Because there's so many biracial families across the country, so many interracial relationships and marriages and things, and trying to have those, like you say, uncomfortable conversations. We don't grow if we stay comfortable.
Right.
You know, we don't, as a coach, you and I both know, the child that can dribble with their left hand, great, and they can't do it with the right, we've got to teach them how to do that. So we have to have those conversations. And in my house and with my boys, we have those conversations, what it's like to be a child of a mixed heritage. And how do we be equitable at home, at work, in the county. And it woke me up, Chairman, that I'm really trying to make this a better place for black children, for white children, for biracial children, and for their parents. We've got to have those conversations. People say you don't see color, and that's not true. We all see color.
Right.
You know, no matter how biased or unbiased we think we are, we have them. So we have to face them and move forward with it.
Chef, I appreciate you. I can hear your passion and the conviction in you as you're speaking is so authentic. It's real. You're living it. And you talked about, you shared your story, your intimate story of having a biracial family and all of that. So out of the pandemic and the social unrest here in Rockdale County and in the city of Conyers, I'm excited to share with you that myself, Mayor Evans, and many of us civic leaders here in Rockdale County are part of an organization, a group called Courageous Conversation.
I love that.
And we have really started to talk about that old ugly elephant in the room.
Yes.
That makes everybody uncomfortable, whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're Hispanic, whether you're Asian. We seen just a couple of months ago, there was an attack against Asian Americans here in our metro. It breaks all of our heart when hate and bigotry shows its ugly face and its ugly head. I tell people all the time, how can you profess to be a child of God and go to church every single Sunday, but on Monday, you're doing things that go totally, when I die, I don't believe the heaven I'm going to is going to have any compartments. There won't be a black section or a white section or a brown section or a blue section. This whole conversation that really keeps all of us somewhat at bay.
Yes.
And I'm so glad that we have penetrated here in Rockdale County and pierced that mark with talking and having the courageous conversation. Yes, sir.
May I ask you a question? Because I know this is, it's these courageous conversations, and then we have to have courageous acts. Tell me how it went, because I follow the news, Rockdale news out west, and when the statue was removed, how did that go over? Because as a person that graduated from Rockdale County High School in '78, and as one of the first people to integrate the schools back in the earlier days, right? I started school at J.P. Carr, the all-black school.
Okay.
And the year before total integration came to the county, I was one of those that chose to come to Pine Street. So I know what it was like to be on the buses sometimes back then. So what was it like that night and the weeks after that when the statue was removed? How much pushback?
Chef, you caught me off guard. I
sorry.
didn't know you were going to go there, but I've not had that many opportunities or that many platforms to publicly talk about how I arrived to that particular situation and making the decision that I made. Well, let me just tell you, so many things were happening in the country at that time.
Yes.
The pandemic was going on, of course, and then there was social unrest all over the country, even in metro Atlanta and around Rockdale and the city of Conyers. I got wind of people coming into our community. One of the things I pride myself here in Rockdale as chairman of the county is being accessible to the people.
Amen.
I also have an opportunity to keep my finger on the pulse of the people in this community. Having spent 15 years in law enforcement, I talk to everybody, whether you're a bank robber or a bank president. So I have people in my circle from all walks of life. That allows me to be privy to information that otherwise some other people that folks don't trust might not get.
Yes.
I was privy to information that trouble was coming to the city of Conyers and to Rockdale County. I sat on it for about one day. That burden was way too heavy for me to hold it. I began to act, but it was how I moved and how I act, how I responded. In other words, being responsive and not being reactive, able to get it done. I knew no matter what decision I was going to make, it was going to tick some people off. Some people were not going to be happy about it. But at the end of the day, here in Rockdale County, I believe it was a step in the right direction to move this county forward. Here we are talking about courageous conversation.
Yes.
We're talking about race, inclusion, equity for everybody. You shared a personal story about your own family. This is what it's all about. We've got to continue to chip at or chop at that old elephant in the room.
I love it.
Day in and day out. And I said to African Americans, to black folks, you've got to call it out when there's ignorant black folks. I've said to my white friends, you've got to call it out when there's ignorant white folks. And when we call these people out, these hate folks out, it really dispels it, and it makes other people feel good that, hey, my white friend just called this out. Yes. My black friend just called this out. Yes. So we have to come together. I'm so proud of Conyers and Rockdale County.
So am I.
I'm excited about this vision. We're going to make this sister county to county thing happen. I put it high up on the radar here in Rockdale County. I'm excited about traveling out to Moran County.
I want to show you around.
I'm looking forward to it and meeting your chairwoman, Chairman Arnold, in July at the national conference, and really bringing these two worlds, West Coast, East Coast, Rockdale and Moran together. Chef, the next time we chop it up, we've got to do some real chopping it up.
Let's do some cooking,
Get you in the kitchen. You've got my mouth watering about that buttermilk fried chicken that your mama taught you over the telephone. So I'm excited about it. Rockdale County, this has been our very first inaugural segment with Chop It Up with Chairman Oz Nesbitt, featuring Rockdale's own native son, Chef Curtis Aikens. We want to encourage you to stay tuned to Channel 23. We've got another upcoming segment of Chop It Up with the Chairman. We're going to have another exciting guest sitting right here in our studio talking about things that's happening in and around Rockdale. You're chopping it up with Chairman Oz Nesbitt and Rockdale Channel 23.